Okay, I'm super excited for this topic. This is selfishly what I want to talk about today. Welcome to your Asian besties. You guys already know I'm pregnant. I'm in my third trimester. I'm right at like 30, 31 weeks. So I just had to pack my hospital bag. It's getting real. He's getting bigger. And so obviously the thing on my mind is birthing and the birth process. And I know in the past it's been a little taboo to talk about. Like, I have plenty of mom friends, but I don't really know their birth stories. And I know it's such a personal, you know, can be emotional, can be traumatizing experience. But I really just wanted to hear more about both of your experiences as much as you feel comfortable sharing. Because I think I'm just trying to, I've read the books, I've gone to some classes and kind of seen on the medical side or the practical advice that people give. But I actually recently picked up this book called Wild Mothering by Tammy Lynn Kent. And it's kind of more from like a spiritual perspective, which I like. And I feel like it's kind of calming my nerves about birthing. I haven't read this one yet, but I also picked up this one, which is The Mindful Birthing by Nancy Bardacchi. So yeah, as much as you're willing to share, I don't know who wants to start. I'm sure Rée will say Lia should start. But yeah, I'm just curious, like, what were your emotions, leading up, like as you were getting closer, you know, and just tell me, yeah, from as early as you can remember, what were your thoughts and feelings about giving birth?
I'll give
Lia,
her.
I have to point it because Ray's just
I
gonna
was
sit there and
Googling.
smile.
I actually knew Nancy, the author of your
Oh,
book, Nancy
you know
Bardacchi.
her?
I mean, yeah, I used to work at an integrative medicine center. One of my first jobs at UCSF, and she was one of the instructors. So
Oh, that
she's
is so
super nice.
cool.
Yeah,
Oh,
I was like, her
awesome.
name sounds
Okay,
familiar.
I'm excited to read it more now.
Yes, yeah, yeah. Um, so my birthing story, so I have two kids. The second one was definitely easier than the first. So, I'll focus on the first. I guess how do you want me to start? Like from the moment I
However
felt
you
like
want, wherever the
contractions?
wind takes you, because I know it's kind of like whatever you can remember.
Yeah. You know what's funny? I remember that getting into contractions more with my second than my first. But what made my first more memorable, well, being the first one, I remember, I think the biggest thing was knowing I felt contractions. And, like when you decide to go to the hospital and everything, and then they check how dilated you are. And if you're not dilated enough, a couple things can happen. They either send you home or they keep you at the hospital and, they have you like walk down and up and down the halls or, do other things to, help you get dilated more, bounce on like yoga balls and stuff. With him, what I distinctly remember was I was a few days past 40 weeks. So at that point, I don't know if it's because my age or whatnot, or my OB was going on vacation, but a couple days after the due date passed, we decided to go in. And I was like starting to dilate, but it wasn't a lot. And then I took this. I ended up taking some medicine to help induce labor. I forgot what it was
Was
called.
it Pitocin?
Pitocin.
Pitocin. Yes, that was it. Oh man. Oh yeah. So that's what made my water break at the hospital, and that's when I knew it was starting to happen. And then I got an epidural because I have low pain tolerance, so I knew like I want the shot. Do you want to hear the details of how you get the shot? Like, how far do you want
Sure.
to go, Mary? I'm like,
I want to
do you
hear it
really want all?
all. Yeah.
Um, okay. So, so it's a spinal injection. First and last time I hope to ever get a spinal injection. But you bend down, and then the anesthesiologist like has this ginormous shot, and they find the right place, and they tell you all the risks if they don't hit the right spot. But
They tell you right before
usually,
they're about to
you,
jab you with the
Yep,
shot.
that's exactly what happens.
yes. And then you just go like, well, I'm already here. Like, go for it. Yeah. So did the shot. The one thing I can recall about that shot, well, other than not feeling anything after, which is great, is also bad because you don't really feel your contractions happening as much. You definitely have to work harder to push. People have to tell you when to push. That's you start to not be able to listen to your body as much. So I think that's like kind of the downside of it. The other thing is I shivered a lot. Like one of the side effects of the epidural is like you just go into shaking. And like my teeth were like chattering for a time. Not the whole time, but there was like moments where I was like, what is going on? And, like, it's totally normal. So I were going through that. I would still do epidural again if I ever had to do that
Well, I
again.
think you were wise because what I've heard is when they give you Pitocin, the contractions are more painful.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
So
then you
some
need the
people that didn't want the
epidural.
epidural, it's like they end up getting it if they have to get Pitocin because it's like
Yes. So I did the double.
contractions, yeah, on
Like,
steroids.
help me get this baby out, and I don't want to feel anything. And I remember for Phoenix, I was pushing all different ways. Like I was literally like pushing, like, laying, like with my back on the bed. And then at some point, they actually had me go kind of like on my hands and knees, like, like try pushing different ways because of the positioning that he was coming out. Like he was just, it was really hard to get him out. And
Was he
then
turned or he was head down? And do you
he was
remember?
head down. I think he was facing the wrong direction. I don't
Like facing
remember.
forward? I think they're supposed to be facing back towards you.
Yeah, his
Yeah.
head was definitely like the closest to,
Uh,
but yeah, it was for whatever reason it was hard to get him out. And then there was a moment like I was pushing for hours. It seemed like I would have like rests and then try again. So it was very frustrating. But there was a point where they felt his, blood pressure or heart rate like going a little low. And then what they ended up doing, okay, this is going to be like trigger warning for those people who don't really like birth stories. They actually had to get like more doctors in. They actually had to get this suction vacuum thing once his head started peaking to help him get out. And blood splattered everywhere. Like it was that like I was surrounded by like a room full of doctors at that point. So that was like the pretty scary part, right? Like once they know like we got to get him out soon. That's what happens. I want to say like the cord was, kind of wrapped, not like tightly, but the
mm.
umbilical cord too, was kind of putting the pressure on that. Um, and then once they got him out, like obviously I didn't notice like the whole room. My husband definitely did. He cut the cord, and Phoenix had a slightly cone head for like a day. They're like, "Oh, go normal." But yeah, I think of that full experience, like that's one of the things I remember because it's just what people don't talk about, like when you go in there. Right? Like it's like, oh, I went to labor in like a few hours and then had the baby. But and it's like really scary, like, as the mom too, right? It's like, okay, like who's more at risk and what's gonna happen, and I think it's just very hectic. So I don't know. Yeah, that was
Do you remember your
Phoenix's birth.
emotions at any points? Like any, you know, high points
Um,
or low points of like how you were feeling, or were there points where you're just like, I can't do this anymore?
yes.
Or
Oh, there were definitely points where I'm like, I
yeah.
can't do this anymore. Like, I need a break. I can't just keep going. Like, definitely frustration. Like when you're like, this should be easy, especially the expectations, right? Like, they should just be coming out. Like, I don't know what's going on, and they're telling you to push, and you're like, I am pushing, and so that was frustrating. I gripped Kevin's hand really hard a few times, and then like they do the whole like feeding you ice and stuff too, all that. Um, what else? Yeah, and you're like, exhausted because I don't think you can eat. I don't know, Ray. Do you remember
I
this?
think
Like,
is it
right?
after you get the epidural
Once
you
you get,
can't
yeah, you
eat?
really can't eat anymore. Yeah, so you're like
Were you and
starving.
you weren't able to get out of bed, right? After you get
Mm-mm,
the epidural.
yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
because you're numb. Like you
Yeah.
legit like your legs don't. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
like so like yeah like even like when I had to push like like with hands and knees, it was like very like rocky to try and balance because you're like I carry my
Yeah.
So I think it's that, you know, like, yeah, just a lot of frustration. You forget all of it after, though. Like, once
That's the thing.
the
I feel like,
baby's in your
as
arms,
mothers, they're always like, no
uh,
matter what happened, like, I'm just grateful to have a healthy baby. But it's like, yeah, but you still went through this crazy experience. And we'll get to Rée, but just while you're in this mindset, I'm curious, like, did you feel at all prepared for the experience? And
no.
what do you wish could there be anything helpful
No.
like that you wish you would have known beforehand,
I mean, all the things, right? Like, you hear about Pitocin, you hear about epidurals, but no one really, like, I don't think anyone told me about, like, the shaking. Like,
The way
like,
they describe it in the pamphlet, they're just like, yeah, this is it's good. It'll take your pain away.
yes, you won't feel
Women get
anything.
it all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like, that definitely did not feel normal. And, um, yeah, because
I
I
just
called,
listen,
I talked to people
Tabitha,
too.
Tabitha Brown.
Mm-mm.
Um, she's like a vegan person, but anyway, she has a podcast with her husband, and they told a really funny like account of getting the epidural because he's afraid of
Mm.
needles. So he was just
Mm.
like, they brought in this suitcase and they pulled out like it looked like a sword, and
Yeah.
he was about to faint, and
It's
I
the
was like,
biggest needle
okay,
you've ever seen. It's like this
yeah,
thick, like, it's, you're like,
yeah.
all that's going in me.
I know, because even me filling out the birth plan, like, I'm just like, I don't know. Like, I don't really know. Like, a part of me is like, well, yes, I'd like the epidural ASAP because I don't want to get it too late where it doesn't work, but also I don't want it too soon because then I'm confined to the bed and I'd like to be able to walk and do other stuff, So it's just like there's so many variables, and that's why I just want to hear people's stories because I'd rather just know whatever can happen. You know what I mean? Just so I have some idea of.
One thing I will say is, like, I remember, like, in those birth planning classes, they're like, bring a playlist. I do not remember what I was listening to.
Okay, get this. Kaiser canceled their birthing class. They don't even have one. They're like, oh, you mean the Lamaze class? Yeah, we don't offer that. Like, ever since COVID. I'm like, you don't
No.
think that's important for women to have a birthing
It'd
class?
be
Like, you
nice to
literally
know.
have like a
Yeah.
nutrition class or like. Anyway, so that's why I bogarted this podcast to get your tips and tricks.
There you go.
But
Yeah, you don't
yeah.
need, I mean, bring the music, but it's definitely not gonna be, like,
No, I know. Well,
soothing.
that's the thing. Like, I like to have all the information, like the practical information, but then I also like to read books like this where they're like, oh, sprinkle salt around the room and do whatever. I'm not going to do that, but it's just like I like to have both ends of the spectrum where it's just like, okay, within reason. But I mean, is there anything anyone could have like, was there anything you wish you would have heard before going into the experience, or is just like there's nothing that can prepare you for it?
Yeah, I
You
think
know?
it's that. I don't think there's anything that can prepare you because,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, like, it happens when it happens. Like, and like, and you're never gonna predict, like, are they gonna come out easy or not, and how much do I have to push for? And it's just frustrating, like, because you're like, I know what I'm supposed to be doing. Like, I am doing the thing I'm supposed to be doing. Stop yelling at me. Because I got a lot of, like, yeah, the nurses and doctors, you gotta push harder, breathe. And I'm like,
Well, that's the thing I've been hearing is like they're like, well, you shouldn't push too hard because that's how tearing happens.
oh yeah, no,
So that's
I got
why, like,
stitches. I got stitches. I got tears. So that also happens
yeah,
after the baby comes out.
because there's different ways to push. Like people are like, you're supposed to push like you're taking a number two, but some people aren't even explained the way to push, and then they push the wrong way, and they have a lot of issues afterwards.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm listening to the crunchy granola moms, and then I'm also trying to, I'm trying to be like, okay, let me
Are you
just.
practicing how you're gonna push? Are you, like, mentally preparing?
Well, I've heard in one of the books they were like, because it's kind of like a curve, the birth canal is kind of curved, like a J
Yeah.
shape. So they're like, you're kind of like pushing down and then forward. But yeah, but then this granola lady was like, oh, you should be breathing up. Like you should let it, but she had more of like a home birth, right? So it's
Hmm.
different. But she was like, you should be breathing up to ease the process, because, you know, sometimes you get impatient because you're like done, you've labored for however many hours, and then some women like push too hard and then you have the tearing and all that. So it's like, in an ideal world, you want to avoid all of that, but it's a lot of it maybe isn't, you know, unavoidable because you're in these exceptional, overwhelming circumstances.
Yeah,
So,
surrounded by doctors and nurses who want you to hurry up. Just kidding.
well, that's my fear, you know, because I don't like fully try. I mean, I'm a geriatric pregnancy, whatever, you know, but so I feel more comfortable in a hospital setting, but that's not the vibes that I necessarily, you know, would choose in an ideal world. Um, so what are some words you would use to describe your birthing experience? And maybe like, because you've had two, so for the first versus the second.
Some words to describe it. No, I think frustrating is definitely the first one from Phoenix. Uh, longer than it should have taken in my expectations. You should, so don't expect to plan how long it's gonna be. Um, yeah. And Ava's like, I really can't remember hers. I remember like feeling the contractions, being like, oh, we gotta go to the hospital. It was like the day after New Year's. Or we were there the evening of New Year's. I remember walking down up and down the halls. But that was just like more relaxing because I'm like, I know how this is gonna go. And the baby knew what to do. So that was just easy. So yeah, frustrating then easy. So
Okay, good to know your hard work paid off the first time. She just like slid right out.
thank goodness.
You hear those stories, like there was one comedian and he said his wife, like the baby, like literally they were trying to get that, they lived in New York and they were coming down the elevator, like trying to get in the cab, and the baby just came out like as she was walking, like that quickly.
But you can only hope it would be that easy, you know? That's
but
great.
then it's still scary. It's like then you have this baby, like what am I going to do? Like where?
Still attached to you, yeah.
Yeah.
So let's pivot to Rée, because I think the other part of your questions should be, yeah, the postpartum recovery, because that is a whole another thing I wish people told me that.
Yes, I want to
No one
hear it
told me.
all. So
Well,
Rée gave birth in another country too. So, you
Yeah.
know, so that adds a different layered
I mean,
element.
there's so many different layers to, yeah. But I was going to say, you know, I want to answer the question that you asked Leah first of like, what do you wish you had known?
Mm-hmm.
Like, before going in. And I think, like, I had done so much research and we'd taken so many classes and, like, I just was doing so much reading and information gathering because, you know, it is a geriatric pregnancy. And I was just really like, what? And it kind of is like, anyway, so what I wish I had known is I think so much of what I was reading was like, you can't trust the doctors, right? Like you have to trust yourself. And like, if you're going to have a hospital birth, like, you have to know all of your rights and you have to make sure you advocate for what you need and all of those things. And I think that there is a really, that all makes sense and it's perfectly valid. But I think that there's so much like morality and judgment that's tied in to birthing, right? It's like, oh, there's like so many days, like everybody has their own agenda, right? The hospitals have their own agenda because they don't want to be liable for any like really crazy things that could happen. And they know that this is like going to be a money drainer because who isn't going to fight for their baby, right? And so there's that. And then there's like your parents and your family who like, you know, possibly have their opinions. And it's like, well, you know, if you get a C-section, then, you know, they're not going to be as intelligent. Like, I mean, there are just so many like things that come with that. And then there's like the whole camp of like, oh, if you have a C-section or if you don't breastfeed, then you're not doing right by nature because they're not going to get all of the the microbiota that comes from like your vaginal tract. And I mean, that makes sense too, right? And then it's like, well, if you can't produce that milk for your baby, then your baby's not going to be immune to everything. So then there's fear and shame and there's like everything. So
It's kind of like setting you up for disappointment, no matter how
regardless
it goes.
of what happens.
Right,
exactly.
because there's a million things that you can feel guilty about.
1000%. 1000%. And it's like the guilt around like mothering is abundant enough, right? And so like for it to start the minute that your baby needs to come out, it's ridiculous. So what I wish I had known going in is women have been doing this for thousands and thousands and thousands of centuries, right? So know that your body will know what to do, but then also know that when you are in the hospital, that they have all these rules and regulations so that they don't mess up what has been standardized for them. And so if you are choosing a hospital birth, like you should just trust your doctor. And like I know that like a lot of people who are not in the hospital, they say like, you know, you should be giving birth standing up so that you have gravity helping you, but they actually have you in a bed because again, for liability purposes, right? But again, like if you're going to go the route of the hospital, just listen to your doctor, and like they are on your side ultimately, regardless of what that incentive might be. They are on your side. And
unless you have a bad doctor and you need to get
oh my
a different
gosh, yeah.
doctor. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Put that caveat.
Exactly. So trust your body and listen to your doctors. And I think that's what I wish people had told me, because I was like, no, I need to fight for this. I need to make sure that this happens. And it's just
I totally
so
hear
much
you, because I've been feeling
yeah.
the same way. Like, and I always say, like, if I was younger, I think I would have tried to have like an ideal spiritual birth or whatever. But now at my age, like overall with Kaiser, the OBGYNs, I've seen like 3 different ones and they've all been great, you know? So my experience has been positive and I want that reassurance. It's like filling out the birth plan. It's just like, I'm not going to fight them on every little thing. I mean, you know what I mean? I want to be monitored. Like, it's like you're saying, it's like there can be the pros and cons for anything. They're like, oh, well, if you're monitored too much, they may overreact and then you're going to have all these interventions, but I'd rather just be monitored, you know, versus like intermittent, whatever. So yeah, you have to kind of choose your battles. And like you said, they do it all the time. And in some respects, they are more knowledgeable than we are, but you know, but we also know our bodies. So it is that balance.
Exactly. And so it's like that line between trusting your doctors and then trusting your body is you listen to the doctors and then you tell them what your body is telling you. And but
it should kind of be like this, because I think a lot of the rhetoric out there, to your point, is like very defensive. It's like, come in here and be defensive and fight everything about the system, but that's not going to help you, you know, it's like just an uphill battle. So
exactly. And ultimately you've selected the hospital birth. So it's like going against what the hospital is telling you might not be, like you said, it's because
then I also think it's like, it's not quantified. Like they may say, oh, getting the epidural can cause blah, 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 terrible side effects. But like really, what is the percentage of that? It's probably pretty low, right? Because they do it all the time. Well, I don't know. But I'm just saying, you know, it's like just because there's a risk, that risk can be magnified when it may be like a very small percentage. So.
Yeah, for sure. And my birth story is so crazy. I don't know if you really need to hear all of it. Because I don't
just
think
share
it's
what
going
you'd like to share, because I know there's some
I'll just share parts of it.
Yeah.
Because like when Leah was sharing all of those things, I was like, oh, that kind of sounds familiar. But
well, I'd also like to know your attitude or your mindset like going into it, because to be very honest, I've always been scared of childbirth. Like I think I had way more anxiety about pregnancy and childbirth before I became pregnant. But like for years in my younger days, I'm just like, that sounds so painful. And so I'm in a better place now. But I am someone who like historically has been afraid of childbirth and even motherhood, to be very honest, like in the past, of like the sacrifices required and everything else. And that's why I paid a psychic to like remove my ancestral blocks around it. But anyway, proceed.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm curious, like what mindset did you have kind of going into it too?
Well, I was really scared because it was during COVID, and so like everything was like not even normal, right? So not only was I giving birth in a totally different country than all of the books that I'd been reading was standardized for, but also like the language wasn't there, and so I mean, yeah, I was the same. Like I had a lot of anxiety around. It's kind of like when you build like IKEA furniture outside of the room that it's going to be in, but then you're like, oh, how am I going to get it through the door of that other room? It was kind of like that. It's like, oh my gosh, I
That's the best
got the
analogy.
baby in my body. How am I going to get it out? So that was really terrifying. But
I relate to that too, because it's like the baby just gets bigger and bigger, and you're like, oh my gosh, there's no turning back. There's only one way, and it's out of me.
yeah, exactly. I actually had that realization very late. Like,
And just like IKEA furniture, it can break things when you're trying to get it out.
Yes.
It scrape a lot of things.
Oh yeah, we'll talk about that next story.
But
I can't wait.
Say,
You'll have to do an infographic or like a graphic for that.
Oh my gosh. Oh, that's so funny. But we actually, so my doctor suggested, because of my age and because also of my height and also because of my weight, that it would be really hard to give birth vaginally. And so she was like, but I was like, no, I really want to try. Like, I don't want to have a C-section, like, blah, 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 blah. And so she was like, all right, then the compromise that I recommend for you is to have an induction. So we have to take the baby a week out because there's a lot of risk. And so I was like, all right, fine. You understand I mean, I fought her like the entire time, but
yeah, I'm curious, is this based on Korean like BMI scale, which is probably because I'm like, what? Like, I don't know.
Well, yes,
kind of
yes,
ridiculous.
Also. Yeah, I mean, in Korea, like, and it's so funny because even though I'm American, I am Korean by blood. And so all of their standardized are based on Korean women. And so, yeah, so I was like, all right, fine. So we decided so she was like, you have to have an induction. So I came in a week before, but actually it was a couple days before my induction was scheduled. Like the entire week I was praying that my daughter would be ready to come out on the day of induction.
Did you do anything to try to help?
No, I just kept praying. I kept praying and like, yeah, just sending out into the universe, like, please just come out when you're scheduled to come out. And so actually a couple days before the induction, I was like having all these weird symptoms. And so I had to come into the hospital because I was really scared. Like something was going on and it felt really not right. And then they were like, oh, you're actually in labor. And I was like, oh, well, that's good. Like,
you're like, all these weird things are happening. Oh, you're in labor.
Well, none of it was like textbook, like this is what happens, and so I was like, all right, well, I guess this is my body's way of saying she's ready.
What was happening? Like, did you have back pain or?
Yeah, I had I was in a lot of pain, even in the following weeks, but or upcoming weeks, or whatever the word is. But then I think there was some kind of infection, or I felt like there was an infection. And I was feeling really sick, like as if I was coming down with something. And I really can't remember the emergency now. But I woke my husband up really early in the morning and I said, look, I don't think I'm in labor, but something is really wrong. And so we have to go. And so they were like, you're only a couple days before, like, we're just going to admit you because you're probably in labor. And so I was like, okay, well, fine, great. But then when we finally got there and they were monitoring, they were like, okay, but you're not dilated at all. And so in order to get you there, we have to do some things. And I think part of that included the Pitocin. But I think there was something else. But then I was still very much like, no, I'm going to deliver vaginally. And they were like, okay, whatever. And then eventually, a lot of things happened. And then a day later, oh, I remember. The Pitocin didn't work. It was just really painful. It didn't work. And I was still only like 2. I just remember the 2. I don't even know if that makes sense. And then I think I needed to be on a 9, a scale of 9, but I was only at a 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Was it
centimeters?
Yeah,
centimeters.
Yeah. How big your hole?
Can you imagine if
Can the baby come out?
It would be better if it was 9 inches versus centimeters.
Well,
so you got the Pitocin and you didn't get that epidural though. So you must have been in a lot of pain.
I was in a lot of pain. And they were like, are you sure you don't want the epidural? And I was like, no, I do not want an epidural.
Wow.
I was in a lot of pain.
Warrior.
I would have.
No, but then eventually, I really can't remember what happened. I think I spent 3 years trying to forget, and maybe I successfully forgot.
It's okay. If it's repressed, just leave it there. Whatever. Yeah.
But eventually, I'm trying to think. Eventually, I did get the epidural, but it wasn't a bend over situation. They were like, oh, you need to get yourself into the shape of a shrimp. And I was like, what the hell do you mean? Right. And so like they were just showing. And so they wouldn't let my husband in because of COVID. Like the policies were changed.
Oh my God.
And so I couldn't speak Korean. And so they tried to get a translator in, but the translator was doing a crap job. And the translator was like, yeah, just get yourself into the shape of shrimp. And I was like, what are you talking about? I don't even know what a shrimp looks like. Like, are you talking like tempura? Like, what kind of shrimp are we talking? I mean, obviously, I'm not like laughing at this point, but it was really, really. And so they kept missing. Like, they had the needle and they kept poking me. And they kept like saying like, this isn't working. And so
oh my God.
There was like an angel nurse. She was like, you know, she's really afraid. She's crying. She's hysterical. Like, I think we need to break policy and get her husband in, right? If not just for the language support, then definitely for the moral support. And so finally they brought my husband in. And so finally when my husband came in, I was like all tears. And I was like, they pricked me so many times. And he's like very like, he's not going to fight for me, right? Because, you know, he's very polite and like not wanting to be on people's like toes, right? So I'm like, no, you're going to tell them to do this and blah, 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 blah. But he was that voice for me. And he was my moral support because I was like, look, I know you want the baby to come out as safe as I do. So we're on the same page. Like, can you be on my side? And so like, but I'm really also glad that he didn't take my side completely, because he was sort of signaling to everybody that he was the person they could come to like intermediate, if that's a word, be an intermediary. And so he understood culturally that they are working for us, right? So I'm glad that I had enough fire for both of us to fight for myself. And so he was, he was just communicating. But anyway, so they got him in. And so that's eventually when they were like, yeah, that was the epidural thing. And then I can't remember the timeline, but eventually they were like, okay, the induction has failed. and there was this one dude, he like stuck his entire fist up there and he broke the water. Like he was
With
like,
the fist? Isn't
yeah,
there supposed
with
to
his
be a
fist.
tool? What?
Nope. He
What
stuck his
is-
fist in up there. He broke the water.
Oh my
And,
God.
like,
Is that
they
a
all
Korean
say,
thing?
Why
like,
did
They
it
do
have
that
to be a
here?
dude?
And they were all like talking about how he's the person who
He's the person who does it.
yeah, he's the person they call.
It's his job.
Yeah, it's his job to break the water. And so it was really painful, and I was really pissed off because I don't think you're supposed to manually break the water.
I mean,
But
that didn't send your husband over the edge.
No, my husband was like, they know what they're doing. Yep. And so like I was
Wow.
fighting for myself, but you know, eventually there was a point at like I really can't remember like the chronology, and I think that's what happens when like you have trauma, like you can't remember chronologically what happened. But I do remember like there was a certain point where I knew that if I didn't speak up, if I didn't have my needs met, or if they didn't listen to me and kept going against everything they were telling me, that I could die, or that, you know, my daughter could die. So at some point I was like, look, my husband, from now on, I don't care about your policy. My husband has to be he has to always be with me. And you can't do anything without telling him what's going to happen. Like from 1 to 10, I don't care how long it takes, until he has explained everything that is going to go on, like nothing's going to proceed. And so eventually, after a lot of pushback, they did listen to that part. So my husband was there from that point onward. Like he did not.
So up until that point, they didn't really tell you what was happening?
They were not
That's
telling me
very
what was going on.
traumatic. I got a facial once at a Korean spa, and I didn't know what was happening, and I was traumatized from that. So I can only imagine when you have this fist guy, like what's
the
WTF?
fist guy.
That
and
guy.
I was so pissed off. But yeah, and then at some point they were like, "Oh, we can't hear your baby." So
what is these people?
I know. And so then that's when it was like, okay, we have to go into emergency C-section. And Leah, going back to like the Pitocin and the chattering, right? Like,
Yeah.
oh my goodness. I was
Horrible.
shaking. My teeth were chattering, and I was shivering. I was freaking out. And so right before like going into emergency C-section, that was a procedure. I think they did let my husband in. Yeah, they did. Because I was, yeah, that's right. And I was like, I feel like I'm on serious drugs because I was so unconscious in many ways. Like, just something was seriously out of whack. And I was so scared for my daughter. And actually, during the C-section, like, the epidural was helping, and then I think they gave me something else, anesthesia, some other type of anesthesia. But like you can actually feel everything. You just don't feel the pain. So
That's
like
weird.
I heard you can
Right?
feel pressure. Like I heard you.
Yeah,
can
you
never
feel a
did
lot of pressure, but
Yeah.
you don't feel the pain. And so I was like, and I was awake for
Could you
the
see what they were
part-
doing, or do they block that from you?
no, they block a lot.
He's moved. The baby's moving by hearing this story.
Right.
I'm like, you better
Because-
be listening.
Exactly, because they don't actually, so because of the type of anesthesia it was, they don't give you the full anesthesia where you knock out when your baby is still inside you. And so when the baby was inside me the entire time, I was still awake. And I was like, oh, that's a lot of pressure. Oh, that's really interesting. And I could hear everything that was going on. I just couldn't feel the pain. And then as soon as they took the baby out, that's when I passed out because that's when they gave me the other anesthesia. And so apparently I was in operation for 4 hours.
Wow, that's a long.
To close me back up.
Wow, Because I've heard it can be like 15 minutes, like when people schedule a C-section, they're like
Well,
15,
maybe
20
that's just
minutes.
getting the baby out, but then
Maybe. Yeah, I don't know.
closing you back up. Oh my gosh.
Well,
Yeah.
you know what? It could have been okay, I think I know what it was. I think it was when I woke up, it was 4 hours later because it takes a while for you to wake up from the anesthesia.
To recover.
Oh, I
Okay.
see. I
Yeah.
see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so it was kind of crazy. They like my husband got to see my baby first, or our baby first. And then he was like, "Are you going to say anything? Because you're going to be in the room." And I was like, "Bye, see you." But then that's when I was like shuddering, and that's when they brought him in. So he was actually in there for the C-section too. But yeah, and then I just want to say it was really crazy. Everything, like, and that's why I want to say it's really important to trust your doctor and that they are on your side, because I could have villainized them the entire time. Like, they did this to me even though they said they wouldn't, or I know that they broke the water on purpose even though they say it was an accident. But ultimately, I think instead of getting angry, just like leaning into the fact that they were all doing their job. I chose the hospital birth, like, and just being thankful that they got her out healthy. And that allowed me to sort of recover in peace. And so, yeah, like, I don't know if any of this makes sense, but essentially trust your body, advocate for what you need, but at the same time, do trust your doctors, or else it'll be so much of a headache, and you'll not only be uncomfortable and potentially in pain and also potentially endanger your child, but also you won't recover as quickly. I was just going to say, Maryn, I don't know if any of this was helpful.
No, it is. It really is.
Yeah.
You know, because it's kind of rare. Like, I've watched some vlogs of like YouTubers, you know, going through, but I think it's helpful just to hear the experiences, and it gives, you know, me more respect and more just everything around the process. And like, women do go through so much, and to just have to go through it silently and be like, well, it's all good because the baby's here. I mean, do you feel that it's left like any emotional, like lingering emotional impacts, or any impacts from, you know?
Yeah. I just want to say, like, it took me so long to get over my traumatic birth, because I could have died, my baby could have died. And in no part of that process was I prepared for any of those things. I mean, there's always like, you know, oh, the addendum, or, oh, by the way, like, statistically, this could happen or this could happen, but you never think that you'll be part of that statistic. You always think like, oh, well, that's just a small chance. Like, I will be okay. And so at no point do you prepare for the fact that this could be the end for either of you. And so I think maybe if, I really don't know, like, we could talk if and or but I think the emotional impacts of all of that was realizing how smart my body was, and how spiritual the bond between my daughter and I is, like, that sacred bond, and then also the fact that my husband and I have such a great, strong relationship. And so I think the emotional impact really is, it was really hard, but ultimately knowing that I have a support system and that we really care about each other was really helpful. But I want to say that it was so hard. I think part of my eating disorder came from the fact that I was not prepared for having almost zero control over the situation. I'm pretty sure that was the stem of my eating disorder, even though I had disordered eating throughout my life. the really, really, yeah, so that came about. And then I think, but also I think I went through some really important therapy, some really life-giving therapy as a result of having that traumatic birth. Because I think it's when you're at rock bottom that I think you start really changing really big systems in your life. So I think for me, if choosing to see the good things that happened is the only thing that saves me from, going into my rage and going into injustice. And but I'm choosing to stay connected and to be in community and to be positive and to be grateful, because or else that other part can really consume me, because I was there and that was really hard.
Well, thank you for sharing all of that. I know it's not easy and it's a journey. And I think, a lot of women experience traumatic births. And so
Yes.
by you sharing what has helped you, like going to therapy and knowing for better or worse, it's like you as a little family unit with your baby girl and your husband, you all went through together and you're all, happy and healthy now, but that it does take work. And it makes total sense that you feeling that total lack of control in the birthing process. And then it's like after birth, you're like, I'm going to try to control everything I can to make this right. The most ideal, almost like trying to make up for it or get that back. So yeah. Well, I think maybe we can save the postpartum, the aftermath and the care for another episode, which I also am very curious about. And I will also be brave and share my birthing story, hopefully not too soon, but not too far after it actually happens, so I can try to remember the details. And I think I may have the opposite problem as Rée, is that my husband will be like too fiery. So if anything, I have to calm him down.
Calm him down.
Yeah. But yeah, this has been very enlightening for me, and it's an amazing thing to become a mother. Like, it just takes so much out of you, and I think we just don't hear these stories enough. So thank you so much for sharing. And we'll keep on with these topics, like as I'm going through it and as I want to pick their brains, about all the motherhood stuff. So yes, and if you have any other topics you'd like us to cover, you can email us at yourasianbesties@gmail.com or on social media at yourasianbesties. But until then, take care of yourself, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye.
Bye.